Hello and welcome to the Toffees Victoria Show. We're back for another week, and yeah, that didn't go according to plan. We wanted the winning to keep going. We wanted the feelings to keep going. We wanted to just everything to keep going, and sadly, we came to a bit of a stop. But before we get there, we've got our good friend Ty back. Ty, how have you been? What are your thoughts of the season so far?
Well, I was doing a lot better until I watched that game. But no, it's thanks for having me back on. I had a lot of fun the first time, so definitely happy to be back. What a start to the season! I mean, it was some of the highest highs I think I've felt in all of my time watching this team.
Mm,
And I don't want to say it's all come crashing down, but just the weight of that terrible performance. I got to be honest, I have not been able to shake it. I watched it. Thankfully, I didn't wake up in the middle of the night or stay up to watch it. I usually do, but I had work and I just didn't want to. So I woke up at I think 5 o'clock in the morning, and I watched it before work. And ever since I did that, I've just had this cloud hanging over me,
mm,
which is odd because I mean, you guys know I'm generally pretty positive about things,
yeah.
and hopefully it'll pass. Hopefully we get a win against Newcastle. Um, but yeah, it's been tough.
Yeah, no, I can't, I agree with you there. Like even, I also had to work that day. So I only got to watch the mini match, but even just from the mini match, I could just tell the vibe of how the game was going. We couldn't hold the ball for more than a minute. We kept losing it. And then when we would lose it, they would just counterattack, triangle passing and, and attempt on goal. And it's just like, what where's our defense? You got to shut that down. You can't let that third or second pass happen. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was very frustrating, and it has been a bit of a cloud since it, because I read somewhere, I think it might have been on a tweet, like, wait, have we gone back in time to last season's team? Like, what performance is this? And it
It
was
really
quite
did.
right.
It looked like Marco Silva
Yeah.
right before he got sacked. It really
Mm,
did look like that. And like I said, the highs and the lows going from, Spirit of the Blues topping the charts
yeah.
to where we are now. I'm trying to stay positive
Yeah.
and hopefully we'll get there, but I just haven't been able to shake it. There's really, I think, two things that have bothered me the most about what happened.
Hmm.
One is within our control, the other is kind of not. First one that is within our control is just the complete lack of fight we saw out of our players.
Yeah.
It's one thing to, okay, we're down a couple injuries. We have one of our best players, Richie, out on a red card suspension. Fine. But the other guys got to step up. And I just didn't see that out of really anybody. I mean, even the talisman that you usually expect to see that from, like Calvert-Lewin, granted, it wasn't really his fault. And he tried to put in a hustle for a little bit, but by the second half, everyone just looked completely deflated, which was tough to see. So that was the first one. The second thing that really isn't within our control is we've somehow, in two games, gone from this altruistic like team that everyone wants to strive for to, okay, Pickford makes a bad challenge and Richie gets a red card, and
Yeah.
then Luca Dean, I'm sure we're going to go back and forth
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
that,
We'll
but
definitely get into that.
he gets a very unlucky red card, and suddenly we're like the team that's out trying to hurt people, where anyone
Mm,
who watches Everton knows that is 100% not what we're about. So that's the other thing that's really been frustrating me, that and I keep seeing the stories come out, people drawing the parallels with what happened against Liverpool, and it's
mm.
really frustrating, honestly.
Yeah, no, I agree on you there. Well, let's just you started off on some really good points there, Ty. So we'll get into the Southampton review now. So it was a sad 2-0 loss. It could have been three, but the third goal was ruled offside. But it really could have been three or four. Really, they were outplaying us all around. Tim, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, I unfortunately stayed up to watch this one.
Oh,
I guess one of the benefits of Corona lockdown and working from home is you can sleep in a bit because you don't have to travel to work, so that was helpful.
mm,
But yeah, obviously wished I didn't. Had a very angry nap afterwards. Like right from the start, we weren't in the game. You could tell, and look, hats off to Southampton. They came there with a plan and they executed it really well.
mm.
So Andy, you were talking about like the passing and the triangles, right? So what they were doing was they were passing around a lot between their back line. And our defenders and our forwards and our midfielders were getting more and more frustrated, and they were sucking us higher and higher up the field.
Yeah, I noticed
Um,
that.
at some points, you even saw a land almost in the number 10 spot,
Mm,
just trying to close people down, just frustrated, just give us the ball back. What they would do is they'd do that for, 10, 12 passes until we got really frustrated. And then they'd hit a long ball between the lines because the problem was the midfield was coming up, but the defense wasn't following. So there was a huge space to exploit in between the midfield and the defense. So either one of their two strikers would drop deep or one of their midfielders would run forward into that space and they'd play a pass in. Godfrey had a horrible game, and I know it's only his first start and he was being played out of position, but he
mm.
was constantly sucked into the central defence, which left them acres of space down their left, down our right. I had a look at a heat map before and a shot map, and they had, I think it was something like 15 shots, and 12 of them or 13 of them came from centre or left-hand side of centre. They only really had two shots from this side, one of which was obviously a goal to Ward-Prowse,
Yeah.
which came from a throw-in. So they were getting acres of space out there. I was a little bit disappointed that they still managed to get away with that in the second half. Ancelotti didn't really make any changes to stop that from happening.
Mm.
Yeah, look, we had a few players down. I have to admit, as much as I'm a big fan, Iwobi wasn't good enough. We've spoken in previous weeks about our strength in depth,
Yeah.
but without Richarlison, neither Iwobi or Bernard were good enough.
Mm.
Most of our play, as we said, reminiscent of last season's, most of our play went down the left this weekend, and not through James, which was very unusual. And I think the reason for that was Godfrey being a centre back. A lot of our goals and a lot of our good play this season has come from overloading that right-hand side with Coleman, James, and Decore, ultimately ending in James playing a crossfield ball, either across into the box for DCL, and now Richie's tucked in as the second striker to attack, or if they're sort of marked, he pings it longer to Dinya, who's got acres of space out on the left flank. And we just couldn't create that with Godfrey not there. There was no overload. With Godfrey not moving high enough up the pitch, Decore was getting further and further up the pitch, which was isolating our defence once again. So basically, the sad part was there was no plan B, which is something that I've said about every manager we've had so far. Silva was the worst at it. When plan A wasn't working, there was no plan B to go to. I'd like to think if Richarlison played, the plan B would have been to go to a 4-4-2, but we had no strikers on the bench.
Mm.
It's really tough to single out players for poor performances, considering they were all pretty poor. But Iwobi and Sigurdsson are definitely up there. Looking at stats, like I've gone sort of did a bit of a deep dive because just how much possession we had and how many shots we had doesn't always tell the full story. And hardly anyone played a key pass in that game. I think Sigurdsson completed 50% of his passes for the game. So he basically did what Gomez did against Liverpool. So yeah, I get what you guys mean by sort of that feeling. It feels like the bubbles burst because we all thought we had strength in depth, and then the depth players that have come on in this game couldn't get the job done. Honestly, I think our biggest loss was right back, and I do still believe that we have strength in depth there. Just unfortunate that two right backs were out injured for the same game. Personally, I mentioned in the WhatsApp group at halftime, I would have preferred to have seen Nkunku come on.
Yeah.
And play on the right or Dinya play on the right, because at least those guys who have that fullback mentality, they know when to go forward, when to stay back. They know the positioning a bit better than Godfrey, I think. I don't think Godfrey at right back can be the answer this week against Newcastle. But, hopefully there's a few guys who are fit by then. The other thing, obviously, the other big event was Dinya's card. As we're filming this now today, it's come out that we appealed it based on the grounds of we appealed that it was excessive punishment, not that it was a wrongful dismissal, and the ban has been downgraded to one match, so we're only without him for Newcastle. I think at the time watching it live, he lost the ball to Walker Peters, and he actually had a little clip at him straight away. And the ref did the, play on.
Yeah, play on, yeah.
And I think he was already going to give him a yellow card for that little clip.
Yeah.
Because that was a little clip in anger because he just lost the ball. As soon as because Dinya actually looked at the ref while he was calling play on.
Yeah.
And then you just see Dinya put his head down and steam after him. And watching it live, I just went, don't do it. Don't do it. Like, I knew what was coming. And I think he lost his head. And I think as he got close to Walker Peters, I think he regained his head and went, wait. And that's what the footage showed. And, obviously Walker Peters played it well as well. He felt that Dinya was right on his hammer, slowed down a bit, threw a leg back. Any contact was always going to be a yellow card. I think the reason it was a straight red was because it was essentially 2 fouls in 30 seconds and it was going to be 2 yellows. And so, 2 yellows equals 1 match. So I think all in all, the ban is probably fair. And yeah, Dinya just lost his head there. If I was a neutral supporter watching another team from a mile away, I'd be like, you could see that coming. You knew what was going to happen. So it was disappointing, but luckily we only miss him for 1 match. But yeah, as you guys said, it's very disappointing, but I think the only way that we can get back into look, we're still top of the league.
Yeah.
I said at the start of the season, out of 5 games, the first 5, because we had pretty favourable fixtures, if we could get 10 to 12 points, that would show real progress. So now we're 6 games in, we have 13 points. We're still top of the table. The best thing we need to do now is just come out and perform against Newcastle to put all those doubts to bed. And then we can sort of say, the bubble is not burst. But overall, it was, just a horrible game to watch. We created nothing. DCL, 18 touches for the entire game. And, when we were putting the crosses into the box, he was the only player in the box, which is a fair sign that there was a lot of disconnect between the forwards and the midfielders. Just onwards to Newcastle and hopefully an improved performance. What did you make of it, Ty?
Yeah, I had, I've already sort of tipped my hand about how I felt about it. I didn't think anybody had a good game. Just sort of dovetailing on what you said about the Luka Dean incident, I felt the exact same way as I watched it on replay, not live. But, there's the first incident where I said, all right, that's probably a yellow. You can see he's getting frustrated.
Yeah.
And then he charges after Walker Peters. And I had the exact same thought as you did. I said, oh, don't do anything stupid. And sort of going along with what I said before, what makes it really frustrating is he didn't do anything stupid. He didn't lash out. He didn't do anything spiteful. He wasn't trying to injure. He wasn't even trying to foul.
His hands up were already up.
Yeah.
Like as he was there.
He's trying to come across sort of. He's like a little bit to the right. He's trying to get inside to get a better position because he knows what he's doing. He's a good defender. And he unfortunately makes the wrong step, and suddenly we are, headhunters. We're out to get everybody. So it's unfortunate, but just to expand on the sort of the appeal and the reduction. You guys know my background is in law, so I'm not going to claim to be an expert or even know the first thing about sport arbitration or how that process works. But I'm just curious about. So there's a legal strategy where generally you're allowed to assert multiple claims, it's called, where, okay, I'm arguing this one thing, but if I lose on this one thing, then I'm also arguing on this other thing. So I'm wondering if they tried that, because it seems like they took a more conservative approach with the, what was that terminology, Tim?
So they went for excessive penalty as opposed to wrongful dismissal.
Right. So it seems weird to me that, and maybe they did, I don't know. It seems weird that they wouldn't argue both and try to get, the lesser, if not, let the arbitrators sort of compromise and get the lesser punishment. Maybe they did that. I don't know. But if they didn't, then I'm not sure what the strategy was there. So maybe time will tell. I don't know.
Maybe you can only appeal on the basis of one rule in the FA appeals process. I don't know. Maybe you have to hedge your bets.
Would Carlo's comments interfere, Ty? His comments about this is just because what happened in the derby, and they're like, oh well, let's send an Everton player off this time to even the odds or something. That sort of how I wasn't too happy with Carlo's comments like that. I was like,
Yeah, I
mate,
mean,
don't reference back to the derby because then them would
yeah,
jump on and they haven't they? We're now thugs to
it's
Yeah,
them.
that's
it's
right.
yeah, it's tough to say because there's the legal element and then there's the human element,
Yeah.
where the legal element is it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks or what anyone else says. The only thing that matters is what was going on in Luca Dean's mind at the time he decided to do what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's from a strictly legal standpoint with blinders on. But as
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
knows, we live in the real world where there's human error and people are people. And if Carlos says something like that, and the arbitrators hear it, then sure, it could influence their decision. Who knows? I mean, there's political pressures. There's all kinds of things. So
Yeah.
who knows? Honestly.
Yeah, because when I first saw it, I honestly just thought it was I saw his first little niggle at him, and I'm like, okay, all right, and I'm like, okay, he's gonna just try and get around him now to put a leg in to get the ball out, and his right foot just like their feet just somehow magnetize, and his foot's on his ankle, and he sort of slips. Like that's how I honestly saw it. But then you slow it down and you're like, okay, yeah, that kind of looks like he's
The reason he lands on his leg like that is because Walker Peters, as I said, very smartly, Gareth Barry was one of the best players at doing this. He slows down and he throws back his trailing leg because he knows any contact is going to win him a free kick.
Yeah.
And the way that he's slowing down so much that his trailing leg at that point is almost, perpendicular to the ground. So it's not just he hasn't thrown it back where his ankle is up at knee high. He's actually just taken a giant stride, if you know what I mean. So his trailing leg is a lot lower than it would normally be if he was actually trying to run. So that's why when Dinyas clipped him, instead of just clipping a foot that's hanging up in the air, he stood on him. Because it was a combination of everything really. Because Dinyas not even looking at his feet.
Like even when his foot is on his ankle, he's like, whoa, like what's happening? Like even he was shocked, like
exactly.
oh, it's not. I didn't do that deliberate. Like yeah. And you can read his lips. He's saying, I slipped.
Yeah. And I think it was a yellow card, and I think the reason why the red came out was, look, maybe Carlo's right. Maybe it was a bit of bias from all the bad press that we've received thanks to those other mobs.
To them,
But maybe also, as I said, it could also be that the ref was already planning to give him a yellow for that first little niggle.
Because he did play advantage.
As we said in the eye test, when he put his head down and started charging at Walker Peters, I think we all looked at it and went, oh no.
Yeah, something's going to
happen.
happen.
We all knew what was about to happen.
Yeah.
And, so in a way, it wasn't surprising when the red came out. But yeah, I certainly don't think it was violent conduct or rough conduct or whatever the terminology is that gets you the 3 games. I think downgrading it to 1 game is fair because I think in reality, those 2 incidents by themselves would have equaled 2 yellows.
Yeah.
So I think in the end, it's kind of a fair result.
I agree there, Tim. Yeah. 3 was as soon as I found out what the charge was, and they're like, "Oh, it's 3." I'm like, "Whoa, hey, that's really a bit excessive." Like he literally just slipped on his ankle. I'm glad that it's just down to 1. But he's still such an important player. But yeah, like I said, I watched the mini match 25 minutes highlights package that Optasport do. Oh, sorry, Cloptasport, I should say. And yeah, I could just get the vibe of the game, and I was just so frustrated. I was just like, it really was like a silver team. Like, what are these performances? Like, for a second, I was like, where's our new signings? Like Decore and stuff. I hardly saw him getting involved in all the playing and stuff. And just like, I know Sigurdsson had that great shot, that attempted goal that sort of hit the top bar, but other than that, it was all just Southampton, which is quite disappointing.
They were very well organised, and
credit to them.
They executed it very well, I must say.
It was miserable to watch. I think every game so far, every league game and all of the League Cup games, I have watched twice. This one I didn't even want to finish watching the first time. So
Yeah, I haven't gone back actually, and I don't watch the review
Yeah.
shows when we lose because I'm just like I don't want to
Yeah.
know what they say, and I don't want to know that them saying, "Well, this is the mistake they made." It's like, yeah, I know the mistakes they made. I don't need someone else telling me that.
I watched it. Yeah,
I'd rather watch it when you're and praising us. I don't want to know. I know our mistakes.
I think
And
I think the most disappointing aspect was though it was a game where, and I spoke about last week how and we've all spoken about throughout the course of this season the newfound resilience from the team and heads don't drop and one goal down means nothing because we're always a threat at scoring 4 goals, and we were never a threat in this game and the heads did drop and the frustration came out and I think we saw it with Dinya. That was those 2 acts were acts of a frustrated player.
And it's funny though.
So there was. What's that?
It's funny though, because when we did go 1-0 down, I was like, oh, it's fine. We're going to score.
Yeah.
And, Carlo knows what he's doing. The players have been this before. And we have always conceded. And we said this, I think, Tim, I think it was you and I last week saying we are going to concede. Like, we're not keeping a clean sheet.
That's right. Yeah.
So I was very confident, we'll make this 1-1 within maybe 10 minutes. And it just never happened.
Same.
It just never happened.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And when they went for that, when they had that third one that was disallowed, I was very, very relieved. I knew he was miles offside as soon as the ball was played. So that was I wasn't too concerned about that. But certainly they had plenty of shots and plenty of opportunities after that. And a little bit cleaner in the final third. I mean, in the first half, realistically, I reckon they could have put 4 past us.
Yeah.
If not for some good work by Pickford. For one of them, and I think there was a block or a good tackle for the other one, or they just missed like that Romeo's long range shot. But yeah, certainly we never looked like scoring, and all we can really do is go, look, we're still top of the table. We've got 13 points. On to the next one and hope for an improved performance.
Yeah.
Going just going based on something you said, Andy, about how we got scored on early and then you expect us to come back. I had the same feeling, and I should have looked this up beforehand, but I just thought of it. We have gotten scored on early a lot this season. I'm pulling up the schedule now, and Brighton we got scored on very early. Liverpool we got scored on very early. Southampton we got scored on early. This seems like it could be a worrying trend if we're not able to come back like we have.
The thing is, our defense has been ordinary all season. I think we've kept 2 clean sheets from 7 games, including the Carabao Cup.
That's true.
And I think those clean sheets came from lower league teams. And I say every week whenever I predict a scoreline that I'm always going to include at least 1 goal for the opposition.
Yeah.
But up until this week, I've always been confident that we could outscore them because I don't mind conceding 1 or 2 if we're scoring 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Problem in this game was we didn't even look like scoring 1. And that was an issue because that's what we've seen in past seasons. So, look, we are still a work in progress. Obviously, we only got in 3 players, 4 in Conku. I don't think we got all the players. I don't think Ancelotti's finished with the rebuild. So I think we have to be realistic and acknowledge we are going to have some games where things don't work, particularly if we have injuries to key players or suspensions. Richie's a big loss, but honestly, I think the biggest loss in that game was an actual right back because a lot of our game plan hinges on the triangle and the overload on that side. So,
true.
Yeah.
With that, shall we go on a halftime or kick on?
Oh, might as well kick on to Newcastle, I reckon.
All right, let's kick on to the Newcastle preview. So as you've said rightly there, Tim, we do need to bounce back. We do have a decent record recently at Newcastle. Some good performances, especially for DCL. I think the last time he got the 2 goals, and there were some great goals. For me, they really need to bounce back. Who's gonna? I don't know what possibly the lineup would be. I guess with Digne now out, you would have to put
in Conku.
Yeah, you would have to put him in because John Joe, he's on the other. He's right, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in Conku, Richarlison's still out. Iwobi didn't perform well. Gosh, yeah, I don't know. I guess Gomez would come back. Maybe he'll do Gomez and Sigurdsson, maybe. But I don't know. They're like two of the same type of midfielders. I don't know. Honestly, it'll be really interesting to see what he does. Um, yeah, and Newcastle, they're doing pretty well at the moment. They've had a few draws and a few wins. Um, but yeah, they're sort of in a turmoil since that United game. Yeah, conceding, those 4 goals. Yeah, I know, it's just, yeah, it's hard to predict, really. I think we'd be lucky maybe for a 1-0 win, possibly.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it is a tough one to predict because we don't know how the team's going to come out now.
no,
That's the thing.
I don't think Hammett. Yeah, I don't think Hammett will. He might be on the bench. I can't see him starting because I reckon he actually played that game still a bit sore.
But I don't know if you noticed, with 10 minutes to go in the game, he was actually limping around, holding his hamstring and wanting to
Oh,
come
was
off.
he?
But
Okay.
and Ancelotti said, "Well, you have to stay on, mate. We've used all 3 subs and we've only
Oh
got 10
no.
players on the pitch already."
Oh,
So he basically, for the last 10 minutes, just wandered around on the left-hand side doing not much.
not much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ancelotti's since said that he doesn't think it'll be a problem.
Mm.
But yeah, he passed the late fitness test just to play that game. So who knows?
Yeah, he probably should have just not played that game. Just to, put Cotton Wool, put him aside, like,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, that's right.
Well, now that I know that, maybe he won't be in the Newcastle game then. Give him a week off. Yeah, I don't know. I would say maybe a 1-0 win or a draw. I can't see us losing because I just think, okay, if that happens, then we must be in, something's happened. Like something,
Yeah.
because you don't lose two in a row when we've started so well. Yeah. Ty, what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, I'm hoping obviously for a win or a draw. It's tough to say because I guess you think of it is away, just like the game against Southampton was. So we have that going against us. With coronavirus and no crowds, it's sort of unclear what effect that has. But the thing I'm worried about, there's a couple of things I'm worried about. Number one is I look at how we performed against Southampton, and I think, okay, that happened. Now we're going into the next game even weaker than we were against Southampton because now we're down one of our best players, one of the better left backs in the Premier League. Niels Nkunku has looked very good, but this is my second point. I don't want to say concerned, but just sort of keeping the idea in the back of my head that I'm afraid the really good performances that we saw out of our young players, Godfrey in his first game and Nkunku as he's been, basically the entire time he's been here. I am afraid those performances are because sort of there's that old proverb, a rising tide lifts all boats. And because everyone else was performing so well, it sort of took the pressure off them. There was more space for them to operate, more time for them to make their decisions and pick out their passes and things like that. So, he's a young guy. He is not only a young human, but he's young with this team. So I don't want to throw him into the fire and have him have a bad game, and then all of a sudden he loses confidence and takes a couple steps backwards. That's what I don't want. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's something that we do have to sort of be aware of and make sure if we're going to throw him in there, we have to make sure we surround him with talented players and make sure we have a game plan that puts him in a position to succeed, because I think he's going to be a great player for us.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, look, it's a really tough one. If you had asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have said we win, 3-4-1.
Yeah.
After that performance that we turned in, and the first few weeks of this show, we have been, I mentioned this earlier, talking about our strength in depth. And something you just said there, Ty, about Nkunku as well. And, your analogy about the rising tide. Not only that, these guys that have performed really well, like Iwobi, like Bernard, like Nkunku, have all done it in the Carabao Cup against lesser opposition, let's be honest.
Mm.
Fleetwood, Salford City, and West Ham, who were not in a very good place at the time we played them. They've certainly come good since then. But they were having their moment in the doldrums at the time that we played them and won 4-1. So there is a bit of that a bit of that confidence of the strength in depth is eroded after seeing what those depth players gave us against Southampton. Lineup wise, I think Calvert-Lewin obviously left. I think he was one of the bright sparks when he came on against Southampton. He drove at their defense and tried to make things happen. And Iwobi and Bernard did not cover themselves in glory at all. I think Hammers will start purely because this is an important game for us now.
Yeah.
While one loss doesn't make or break a season, how you bounce back from that disappointing performance does. And with Man United just over the horizon, this is a game we need to be winning to keep our spot in the table. I think Gomez replaces Sigurdsson. I think those two are almost interchangeable, and it's basically whoever's in good form will start. Unfortunately, Gomez had a bad game, and now Sigurdsson's had a bad game.
Yeah.
Neither of them are in good form, but I think Gomez will start. Decore and Allen will keep their spot. Nkunku on the left. Keane starts. Mina, it wouldn't surprise me if I've been reading today that either Coleman or Kenny could be fit for the Newcastle game, but also Holgate could be as well.
Oh.
Now, Holgate could be an option to play right back because when we loaned him out to West Brom a couple of seasons ago, he played right back for them for the whole season and was very good. He was getting assists and everything in the second half of the season when we loaned him out. So he's probably a more natural option to play there if Coleman and Kenny are not fit and if he is fit. So he's back training with the team as of yesterday. So hopefully, he can be fit and he gives us an option at right back. Mina, while he wasn't bad against Southampton, he again wasn't great. He was also at fault for the goal against Liverpool, Salah's goal, with his shocking backheel clearance.
Yeah.
So I think if we can drop him, as in if we have enough fit players to drop him, I think we will. So my ideal back four, fingers crossed, depending on fitness, would probably be Nkunku, Keane, Holgate, and one of Coleman, Kenny. Or if Holgate's not fit, Godfrey in centre back and one of Coleman, Kenny. Because I think Godfrey's going to be good at centre back. I just don't think he's a right back, unfortunately. But yeah, I think we have to bounce back. So I'm saying 3-1. And if it's not 3-1, this is going to be a much tougher show next week.
Yeah.
I think anything other than a win is unacceptable.
Yeah, based on something you said about Holgate, it jogged my memory. I can't remember if it was under when Duncan Ferguson took over or under Marco Silva, but there was a game or two where we were short in defensive mid, and he stepped up and played incredibly well.
Yeah, you're right. It was under Ferguson. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, that could definitely be an option. I mean, the other thing is we need help at center back, though. I mean, Yerry Mina is so inconsistent. He's really good at stopping people that are, when they're face on. But anytime someone tries to get around him, he's in quicksand. So I think we get the best out of him at center back. But I think he's definitely a serviceable option. I completely agree with you about Godfrey not being the answer at right back. Obviously, he's in there. It's like basically an emergency situation, so I understand why he's there. But let's get him out of there as soon as we can. Honestly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right.
He's definitely missed. And that's it. Well, a nice, quick, short recap and preview. But before we go, I just want to promote. We've got a great charity event coming up. The Q&A night with Toffee TV and the new logo being launched for the Everton Supporters Club of Australia. They've risen from the ashes like a phoenix, and they're coming back on board with everything, which is great to see. And they're raising money for Everton in the community, which is a great charitable business. On the 15th of November at 7:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Tickets are just $5. So yeah, if you go onto Facebook and Twitter and search for Everton Supporters Club of Australia, find those links, or even if you just Google it, the links will be there and everything. So yeah, please buy a ticket and join us for that event. Thank you, Ty.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you again, mate.
Awesome stuff. And thank you, Tim.
No worries. Hopefully now that the restrictions are easing here in Melbourne, we'll actually be able to catch up in person soon, which would be nice.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. We can finally wine and dine.
That's right. That's it.
Thank you, everyone. You can find us on all our socials at Toffees Victoria. Big game this weekend. Let's believe in the lads. Come on, you Blues. Let's go.
Come on, you Blues.
Let's go.
See you next week, boys.
See ya.